He was painting in her dreams again, but this time the canvas cried ink tears. The vivid image startled Emma awake, a shiver racing down her spine. It was unlike her usual dreamscape, typically filled with swirling colors and whispers of forgotten melodies. This was dark, ominous even. She shook the dream off like a cold sweater, letting the morning light blur its edges. Emma Cunningham, a name barely mumbled even in her own art classes, stood in her cramped room, surrounded by canvases taller than herself. Her fingers, perpetually stained with oil paint, traced the outlines of a sketch barely visible against the wall. She often mused how art seemed to pulsate in her veins, yet left her eerily invisible in her waking world. To most, she was just the quiet barista with smudged fingertips, serving smiles with each latte at brewed awakening. That afternoon, beneath the cafe's flickering lights, Emma's life simmered with the scent of coffee beans and quiet desperation. She wiped steam from the window and watched the rain paint fleeting stories on the streets outside. Customers came and went, lost in their worlds. Until he entered Lucian Romano, the enigmatic specter in a tailored trench coat that seemed to absorb the room's attention with every step. "Flat white," he ordered, voice velvet with an edge of clipped authority. Emma nodded, hands trembling ever so slightly, the rhythmic thrum of the grinder masking her quickening heartbeat. Lucian was irregular, though much like a ghost aways there, yet untouchably distant, his presence announcing itself without warning. "Thank you," he said when she served his drink, his eyes capturing her for a heartbeat longer than comfortable. Emma turned briskly, heat rising to her cheeks as if she'd been scolded. Pressure mounted with each new day, the whispers behind her back during art class, the patrons' sidelong glances at the cafe. She felt the weight of 1,000 unasked questions each time Lucian entered, his silent gaze like an interrogation spotlight. Yet it was that same gaze she sought at the corner of her vision, against her better judgment. Emma found solace in her art, her refuge where the world's murmur could be muted, until her paintings began to shift a hand here, a silhouette there that faintly echoed Lucian's angular features. It was both thrilling and terrifying. On a particularly stormy night, drenched in indecision, Emma discovered a peculiar envelope nestled within her art supplies, its paper as smooth as silk with an insignia of a raven embossed on the flap. Unease fluttered at her consciousness as she opened it, revealing a crisp, handwritten note. "Meet me where the city reflects the stars. Midnight. Lucian." Her heart raced. She couldn't fathom why an apparition from her dreams took residence in her art now summoned her like some gothic nocturnal call. Confusion and a chilling thrill intertwined as curiosity overcame reticence. The agreed location was the city's riverfront, where the water mirrored the sky's silver punctuations. Emma hugged her coat tighter against the bitter wind, her breath misting with each wary step. As midnight's chime rose through the city's pulse, Lucian appeared as if stitched from the shadows. His look was both knowing and unreadable as he approached her. "Thank you for coming," he said, the undercurrent of his voice as deep as the night around them. They stood at the lip of the water, the distant glow of the city composing an orchestra of muted chaos. "I see you," he whispered, layers of meaning unfurling in those simple words. Emma swallowed hard, unsure whether to flee or confront the reality she found herself plunged into, canvas of dreams and shadows. It was at that moment a glint of a ring on his finger caught the moonlight, more regal and sinister than any she'd seen. "Lucian, who are you?" she demanded, words slipping out like brush strokes over unfinished art. He simply turned, offering his left hand in silent acknowledgement of his secrets, a hand marked with the crest of the Raven clan, a syndicate whispered about in fearful mutterings. Emma's world crumbled and rebuilt itself in heartbeats, each fragment realigning her vision of him. From mysterious patron to the master of shadows, a figure of power as elusive as he was deadly. Just then, a shadow flitted, temporarily blocking out the stars reflected in the water, a fluttering figure, an omen perhaps. "I need you to trust me," Lucian's voice carried over the rushing river, shrouded in an urgency that left Emma breathless. She hesitated, the pause teetering between acceptance and retreat. "Why me?" she whispered, finally daring to voice her confusion. Lucian smiled, a small, wistful curve. "Because you have the eyes to see what lies beneath." Their gazes locked, his filled with ancient secrets, hers with a hesitant curiosity. Suddenly, another shadow shifted near them, creeping along the water's edge. A splash echoed, followed by silence. "We need to go." Lucian's voice was tight, pulling her back to the precipice of reality and fiction. Emma nodded, the unease awakening something within her, an adrenaline-fueled catalyst. Before they disappeared into the night's mysterious embrace, Emma glanced back at the water, the shivering reflection marred by ripples of message lost to the currents. And in that moment, Lucian murmured with a gravity that sent shivers down to her bones, "We are not alone." "The first thing you realize joining the Mafia is you might never leave," Lucian admitted, his voice a shadow on the edge of desperation. Emma's breath hitched, the words slamming into her like a rogue wave. It wasn't the admission itself that stung, but the weight of truth he carried with it. She stood enveloped in the cloak of night, eyes wide like an artist seeing the world anew, colors sharper and realities harsher. Behind her, the river sang a melancholy tune, its mournful hymn casting a spell that held her in that moment, where her world was smeared like wet paint beneath the pulse of looming mysteries. Emma Cunningham was a canvas waiting to be filled, her quietly complex life interspersed with timid grandeurs. Her hands were tools of creation, yet she lived in the gray, painting vivid dreams to escape the muted abuses of everyday life. At Brood Awakening, she was the girl who belonged to the coffee machine, her existence summed up in disconnected interactions and neglected sketches. The only thought more enticing than Lucian's rare smile was the dreamscape she retreated to nightly, a universe of pigments where she danced alone under silent skies. But Lucian's presence bore a new act, his aura tugging at invisible threads, intertwining their fates in a delicate tapestry of tension and curiosity. "Why stay?" she found herself asking, the words whispered into the silence, their honesty bolder than she'd anticipated. "Because power gives you choices, and choices are better than the chains of fate," Lucian replied, his gaze unyielding as he carved every syllable into the brittle night. He turned his attention to the water, where tendrils of silver moonlight curled like frenzied arabesques. Pressure condensed with every stream of esoteric revelation, the world brimming with unspoken rules. Emma felt them suffocate her, a lattice of control and fear, imposed whispers that trapped Lucian in a world gilded yet ruthless. Her sketches had always captured fragments of this surreal reality, their forms echoing the silhouettes of cityscapes where stories lived and died in whispers, whispers like the brush of fingers over wet paint, leaving hints of something more, something dangerous. Every encounter with Lucian began to test her resolve, an interplay of fantasy and terror. He brought shadows into her light, stirred chaos among the quietude of her art, and his presence kindled a precarious flame in her heart. As if heralding danger, the raven's crest on his finger seemed to watch her, its elegant malice a reminder of inevitability. Emma knew she was straddling realms her safe haven and his tumultuous underworld. More evenings at the riverfront followed, her clandestine forays into a life painted with danger and charm, a world where Lucian crafted dark schemes veiled beneath layers of delicate trust. One evening, amidst tumultuous clouds casting a foreboding scene, Lucian revealed a skill so profound it twisted the perception he'd so carefully curated. His hands, usually reserved for dominance and calculation, transformed with the flair of an artisan into a melody spun from notes of defiance and liberation. He pulled a sleek, polished violin from the shadows, fingers masterfully etching notes into the air. The music rippled, its notes menacing yet tender, weaving through the night like an intricate dance of light and dark, capturing Emma's heart in a vice of fascination. Emma was transfixed, heartbeats syncing with the crescendos of his utterly human raw symphony. In those moments, Lucian was just a man, stripped of Mafia veneers, his soul laid bare through the strings, a secret world exposed through music's universal canvas. The crescendo broke the night open, the city's soft lights dimming in shame, as Lucian's performance imbued the surroundings with an aura of reality bending into myth. "Music, like art, is an escape," Lucian murmured, his breath mingling with the lingering notes like a shared confession. "A place to hide when the world is too much." Emma's eyes glistened, seeing him anew, a wielder of beauty and violence, his duality both terrifying and exhilarating. "What are we hiding from?" Emma asked softly, knowing the responsibility of understanding his truth lay with her alone. Lucian paused, drawing a long breath filled with echoes of unspoken tribulations. "From our decisions, Emma, the ones that shape every breath we take." The night's stillness embraced them as partners in a dance of shared secrets, a melody of resilient rebellion whose notes would reverberate far beyond the darkness. With his humanity laid bare and her courage rekindled, a fragile equilibrium came into view. And as if the universe decided that silence held too many answers, a hasty footstep shattered the fragile silence, a sound betraying their solitude. Emma and Lucian turned in tandem, eyes locking onto a shadow emerging from beneath the city's streetlights, an omen. The specter stood silently, its face obscured, yet its intent rang clear through the chilling night air. A messenger from the abyss, bearing news that threatened the harmony sketched into the night. Lucian stepped forward, his silhouette cast like a challenge against the anonymity of the dark. In that breathless moment, with the night itself holding its secretive breath, a voice sliced through the tension, a whisper laden with purpose. "Time to choose, Lucian." The world pitched forward, Emma's pulse echoing the universe's uncertain cadence. A shadow-wrapped decision loomed before them, dark and intricate, shrouding their path with fateful expectation. The future appeared as breathtaking and fragile as the night's stirring symphony, the ensuing silence tinged with the arpeggios of suspense. "Beware the music," the shadow intoned softly, a lyrical warning drenched in peril. The crash of glass breaking echoed through the alley, sharp and jarring against the deceiving tranquility of night. Emma yielded to the fear tingling her spine, instinctively moving closer to Lucian. He, a poised sentinel shadowed in an aura of dominance, seemed unfazed by the turmoil that invisible forces promised them. Their clandestine meeting had soured with the sudden confrontation. The intruder's menace hovered, electrifying the air with danger. Emma's heartbeat hammered an erratic rhythm, as if playing its own warning symphony. Lucian's fingers brushed hers with a silent promise of protection. His eyes, under the starlit canopy, burned with an intensity that surged through her, a silent command. "Trust me. Follow my lead," he whispered, his words barely above the wind's sigh, yet laden with the assurance of a man who danced with peril and lived to conduct another tune. Emma nodded, willing strength into legs threatening to lock beneath phantom weights of anxiety. She, an artist defined by unnoticed talents, stood at the precipice of her world's canvas, being tainted by the chaotic art of the Mafia's intricacies. As shadows shifted, revealing their adversary a nameless specter, clad in intentions darkened by secrets, Emma's mind raced. Every lesson learned from observing Lucian, those moments of truth unwittingly slipped into shared conversations and revealing glances, assembled a framework in her mind. She inhaled, her senses inundated with the past night's memory, the gentle aroma of the river. Lucian's violin whispering secrets of rebellion, both fueling her spirit with a valor unknown to her. "Emma," Lucian's voice interrupted, now a solemn incantation wrapping her with unspoken oaths. "Remember what you saw, what you heard. These are the tools of survival in our world." The intruder stepped into dim light, face half-masked, tension crackling between the three, as if the air itself couldn't contain its own breath. Emma's eyes traced the emblem, subtly marked on his cuff, a rival's sigil whispered about like dark folklore meant to keep children obedient. Her mind seized on an idea cogently formed from the depths of an artist's repository, where intuition married with observation created masterpieces. Hands steady, Emma stepped forward, using eyes blazing with curiosity rather than fear. "You're late," she said, voice carrying the edge of chiding familiarity, a risk punctuated by the curiosity brewing within their opponent's exposed eye. Lucian's quick intake of breath nearly buried beneath the night's natural chorus, a chorus Emma found herself orchestrating. The intruder paused, momentarily disarmed by uncertain confrontation. Lucian echoed a stoic command, molding the narrative her audacity had birthed. "Our business comes first. This game demands restrained loyalties, not misplaced bravado." A step back, a relinquishment of unease to simulate casual authority required art's intricate deception. one she'd mastered amidst shifting lights of cafes and murmured critiques of dismissive peers. Emma felt the shift, the crack in the omnipresent facade the intruder maintained. Sometimes power was painted with the delicate strokes of surprise and audacity. In that heartbeat, a shift happened, a dismissal briefly holding potential within its grasp, remolding perception of underestimated interference as power woven through unanticipated valor. Lucian's eyes found hers, a shared understanding passing as electricity, and she saw an unspoken acknowledgement light his features, a trust forged upon the edge of deception and daring. Their assailant faltered, retreating with slow, calculated menace, a snake winding into darkness, a promise, a warning cast within retreat's shadow. As the alley exhaled its collective tension, Emma sensed shadows witnessing new resolve, paths crossed but untwisted through the byways of fate's whims. The retreat did not silence the night's allure, for intrigue breathed life into the silence Lucian meticulously navigated. "You," he began, his words lingering like a night's fog, "you hold untapped potential. Drawing with mere words anatomizes art's mastercraft." Emma smiled, an exercise in cautious hope, smudged with the resilience of unheralded artists. She saw Lucian about to speak, his mouth a poet weaving reality and dreams, before yet another unexpected sound shattered their lapsed security. A gasp of small, poignant breath, carrying a courage extinguished into nothingness, escaped from the street's latticework, the resonance of footsteps fading as quickly as innocence washed from glass-laden ink. Both turned, eyes narrowing in the growing obscurity of night's embrace, and Lucian whispered his vigilance yet again. "The game reshapes its pieces," he murmured. Emma shivered, Arthur reality blurring with shadows unyielding, binding paths through darkness with courage's fragile thread, destined to weave a tale unrelenting. The streetlight flickered, casting a wavering glow across them both, marking the night's ending with an unspoken promise intertwined with fear. And in the midst of the growing night, as stars watched silently, the wind carried an enigmatic whisper, "Trust in the absence." "You carry the scent of fear," a low voice hissed in the dense shadows, slicing through the silence as efficiently as a blade through silk. Emma's pulse stuttered, her skin prickling with the sick thrill of being exposed under an unseen gaze. Her hand instinctively twitched for Lucian's arm, the movement an unconscious plea for stability amidst the unraveling night. The mysteries barricaded within Lucian's towering frame provided the illusion of safety, a deflector against the veiled threats weaving like specters through the Mafia's shadow games. Emma, caught between the allure of his world and the raw depths of her own inadequacies, moved in sync with his purposeful stride as they wove through back alleys skewed by dim light. The urbane mask Lucian donned, his visage refined yet sculpted by the harsh contrasts of street lamps against an ink-black sky held promises unspoken, tethered by ties dark as the legend he carried. Every whispered comment at Brood Awakening, where Emma quietly assisted, had become seeds of doubt, resiliently planted echoes reminding her that blending tinctures and aspirations on canvas rarely translated to surviving the Raven clan's ruthless reality. But forge they must, through Isabella's gilded dance hall, where opulent patrons thrived on spectacle and whispers. Emma imagined herself an intruder, an artless shadow slicing through the satin sheen of a painted world where beauty masked ignorance, and everything walked a knife's edge between splendor and vice. The modified, tailored elegance Lucian wore hinted at calculated prestige, the subtle raven crest woven into his attire a discreet nod towards his strength in orchestrating dark symphonies of power. Inside, heavy perfumes mingled with starched fabric, an assault of excess upon Emma's senses. Steel drums pulsed a rhythm that was all heartbeat and hedonism, twisting the atmosphere into something almost tangible, visceral in its indulgent embrace. Lucian's vigilant presence loomed beside her, each movement resonant with authority among those who parted before him like surf, yielding to an unfaltering ship. Across the dance floor, against baroque tendrils of music and mirroring the room's Art Deco opulence, Emma felt isolation thriving. She existed as a soul detached, tracing brushstrokes on life's canvas with cautious restraint. The crisis came unexpectedly, A figure cloaked in authority matched their pace from the periphery, a magistrate of the clandestine, exuding the mix of danger and intrigue that prompted the heart to revolt. "You," the man addressed her, terse and unequivocating, as his fingertip brushed the pommel of a dagger hidden within shadows. Lucian's intervention was quick. "Her importance is as apparent as discretion should be exercised in discussing it," he countered. His voice a snug glove fitted perfectly to the sharp edge of his temperance. The authorities' gaze fixated on Emma again, probing with icy inquisitiveness. She felt every layer of her confidence stripped bare under the weight of scrutiny until revealed truths glimmered like filaments pulled taut across her translucent psyche. "Against reason you wield such sophistication," the man deduced, appraising her presence among the players of a deadly game. Lucian's laugh was soft, a silver ripple over dark waters, which seemed to reaffirm Emma's place beside him through shared secrecy tighter than any knot. As this challenge expanded, like shadows cavorting at a fire's edge, Emma recalled Lucian's voice in the melody of their murmured conversations. The art of translation between appearance and essence was one she must master. Each subsequent step into the night brought with it a ravaged complexity, an unraveling script from which secrets manifested as idols risen from ink and desperation. These were the painted corridors where trust bore meaning beyond survival. Suddenly, as Isabella's gala unfolded into fantastical proportions before them, a new twist bloomed. Emma detected a pattern in her mind, a codex of filled compositions, where ambiguity dissolved into brilliance. A revelation unspooled within her, reshaping the perception of her role as muse, an artist in a dance crafted by shadows yet attended by light. The evening's haze, once a barrier, now pulsed with designs she alone perceived. In the ballroom's heart, she understood the secret Lucian held, geometric intricacies etched upon architectural pillars, laid bare by absorbed intuition amidst glittering ceremony. The crescendo, the gala's pinnacle, rushed upon them, a matter not of silk and grandeur, but calculated deceptions shuffled like cards in destiny's precarious hand. Emma, propelled by newfound resolve, tugged Lucian's attention toward the radial symmetry imprinted in architecture. "Look," she murmured, her terror transforming into clarity crafted through instinct. Lucian studied the motifs, a smile igniting his eyes with the embers of shared recognition. "It's all connected." Before apprehension crackled into confrontation, the sequence Emma unwittingly decrypted revealed a pathway, a concealed egress. Among applause and laughter that chased hollow joy back into the crevices from where delight sprung, they moved silent players on a stage of glittering conspiracy. As the midnight surrendered to twinkling dawn with clandestine triumph, Emma lingered in the moment, the resolve in her heart kindling brightly beneath complex realities. In the dimming glow, Lucian's voice, a painting unfinished yet beautifully perceived, echoed soft, "Hold fast your truths upon this painted path." Yet as they neared the exit, a glinta motif repeating its warning through narrowed eyes caught Emma's gaze. The raven emblem, embroidered on fabric carried in shadows, brushed against silk tapestry as assurance or forewarning. She could not tell. "There is beauty even in brokenness," Lucian intoned, their shared secret spiraling through night's parting veil. A sudden silence pressed in, broken by a whisper tinged with promise and hesitation. "Emma, can you ever truly leave the shadows you've painted yourself into?" The echo of betrayal rippled through the night, crashing over Emma with a force that left her breathless. "He's gone too far," someone muttered in the shadows. Their words carried on the wind that chilled the air between the cobblestones. Emma stood on the threshold of confession and chaos, her grip tightening around a small palette knife hidden within her coat's folds. The metallic coolness grounded her amid the surging tide of deceit that threatened to engulf her world. Rain began to whisper against the rooftops, a gentle patter that mirrored the tumult within her. She was no longer just the girl with paint-stained hands. Here, in the shadows of a city steeped in secrets, she was Eve before the fall, cradling untold knowledge beneath innocence's veneer. Lucian had become her confidant, an unlikely ally whose very presence blurred the stark lines between danger and allure. Their partnership, forged under the steely gaze of the Raven clan's emblem, was a canvas spattered with suspicion and silently shared burdens. Despite the pigeons cooing on the ledge, and distant sirens welling into the night. Emma's focus remained laser-sharp on her disheveled sketch, the impression of an uncanny face she'd glimpsed at Isabella's party. An identity obscured by dread yet vivid in implication of face that promised stories both artistically and sinisterly intertwined. Rumors lately churned through the cafes she frequented, whispers that wormed their way into dreams and nightmares alike. Her classmates spoke of a phantom thief, a curator born not of galleries but of shadows, unseen yet felt, feared as much as revered. Emma felt his presence now, threaded like veins within the oppressively quiet streets. Scurrying footsteps alerted her to Lucian's approach, his silhouette weaving through the liquid darkness with uncanny ease. He stopped short, eyes flickering over the pages Emma clutched, the artistry betraying depths he'd only begun to appreciate. "We've opened Pandora's box," Lucian murmured, a violin's tremor echoing in his words. "And now there's no turning back." Emma swallowed hard, digesting the truth they both knew but dared not voice. "What did we let loose?" she asked softly, her voice echoing the tension crackling in the charged air. "Not just a thief, but a Rivellone with eyes on more than just art's beauty. He's after power," Lucian replied, the crescendos of competing destinies resounding in his tone. A shared glance held the tension of conversations unspoken, agreements forged under the mantle of mutual reliance. Their next steps were a treacherous ballet, one that could end with grace or fracture beneath the weight of stakes too high to fathom. Emma tucked the sketch inside her jacket, her resolve hardening with visceral clarity. Together they slipped into the night, shadows stretching to embrace their purpose. The journey through the city was a maze of echoing alleyways and reflections distorted by rain-streaked windows. Each step was haunted by the knowledge of eyes unseen and the expectation of confrontation lurking within every slanted situation. Lucian guided her with a protector's vigilance, ever aware of the fabric woven by enemies in the architecture around them. He was the sharpness against which the world must shatter, should it threaten her. They reached the decrepit gallery at the city's edge, its facade crumbling under the weight of neglect. But within lay treasures visible only to those willing to look beyond surface imperfection, a captured history of artful whispers. Inside, Emma's breath caught in her throat, the air poised on the precipice between resolute silence and vibrant narration. Their sanctuary was an elegy to uncelebrated art, each piece a nuanced tribute to souls unheard but never silenced. Emma moved among the canvases, her fingers brushing surfaces as if to invoke the stories locked away. But the gallery wove more than tales within its walls. It promised possibility. Lucian stepped beside her, drawing her gaze toward the Centera pedestal, shadowed in secrecy, holding an artifact wrapped in intrigue and myth. The Medusa's mirror, he named it, a relic whose legend spoke of transformation and revelation, power and fallacy mingled in its gaze. A chill rippled up Emma's spine, her eyes transfixed by the mirror's presence, its potential as formidable as it was intoxicating. "Those who look must confront what they see," Lucian continued, his whisper painting wisdom across the room's dim expanse. Emma reached for the mirror, compelled by the yearning of creation and the undeniable tug of destiny's thread. Her fingers caressed its ancient glass, her reflection a mosaic of truth and doubt. There was no turning back as she met her own eyes in the reflective surface, reality fractured and yet coalesced into something vast. She was looking into a future only she could paint. The gallery swelled with expectation as her heart matched its rhythm, the awareness that she could wield the worlds perceived within, not just survive them. Emma's thoughts became brushstrokes of revelation, daring past the shadows cast by doubt. She felt the tapestry of past choices and future potential unfurl before her. Lucian observed the transformation with a nod that was part reverence, part resurgence, a vow spoken without words. With an unyielding eloquence, the mirror revealed the path of divergence, of loyalty and rebellion, artistry and subterfuge, hers to navigate amid Chicago's Mafia-laden tapestry. In one final lingering look, the realization settled, a sheathed weapon of awareness, ready to carve one buried truths into life's palette. "Can we trust the mirror or ourselves?" Emma asked, her voice an instrument of cautious hope. Lucian lingered, just long enough for the night to conceal his expression. The eyes of truth glow brightest in the darkest mirror. And when the city trembled with awakening shadows and sirens merged with distant music, Emma knew clarity of purpose, hidden still by time. Suddenly, from beyond the gallery's embrace, the rusted cast of an iron gate creaked. Threshold now crossed, a vision renewed until destiny calls. Beware the painted dreams, a voice echoed in the newfound dusk, its promise reverberating through the clandestine silence. The sound of the gun cocking was softer than expected, a haunting whisper in the chaos of night. Emma froze, every muscle screaming in silent rebellion. The tangible threat echoed around the crumbling gallery like a hollow melody. Her grip on Lucian's hand tightened, and she felt a shared tension in his fingers, a silent communication that screamed louder than any words. Lucian, the enigmatic mastermind who had danced her through secrets and shadows, now stood as a steadfast wall against impending danger. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and a hint of rust, the telltale signs of a neglected refuge. But from these very walls, they sought guidance. Emma Cunningham, the barista turned shady artist, had fused herself into the city's clandestine veins, much like the paint ingrained beneath her nails. Here, amidst discarded masterpieces and cloaked ambitions, she felt the pulse of potential, the artistry of survival in strokes both literal and figurative. The echo of whispers swirled, reality smudging into the abstract. Outside, the rain ceased to patter with gentle resignation, now hushing the earth like a conspirator. "It isn't safe," Lucian drawled, velvet warm yet edged with razor-sharp awareness. Emma nodded, the threads of their precarious union tighter than ever. The gallery was a tomb and testament to forgotten dreams, its canvas walls narrating unsung sagas. Yet among the ghostly presences, the brushstrokes beneath her forefinger suggested vitality, the profoundly human need to be eternal through creation. But then came the view with which she was not yet accustomed, a reflection not of herself alone, but twisted, layered with Lucian's mysteries. She stirred, realizing too acutely the weight of illusion's cloak slipping. "We have to find the mirror," she urged, breathless urgency coloring her voice. However, the crisis at hand refused such simplicity. Lucian's eyes darted across shifting shadows. They were not alone. And in the kaleidoscope of intricate tension, the crisis unraveled spectacularly. A cadre of figures melted from obscurity, shedding anonymity amidst the gallery's weary breath. Between the dossier of facades and furtive glances, Emma realized a vital piece of the unspoken puzzle, Ravenclan's tangible grasp clawing at edges of his careworn elegance. "Back off, Evelyn." Lucian's voice split the air, a lethal warning painted with the practiced truth of a commander accustomed to confrontation. Evelyn. The name tasted like betrayal and poison on Emma's tongue, as crystalline now as the distant abandonment burgeoning in her heart. Beneath the taunting lines of smiles wrapped in velvet menace, Evelyn, a woman with wind-woven hair and eyes carved from storm-dark seas, lent herself a twisted, courtly essence. Emma's gaze tore through layers of polished deceit. Here, perhaps, was another tapestry in the Raven's domain, one carrying whispers set to beautiful violence. "If you really need her that badly, love, why hide her amongst this rubble?" Evelyn purred, every intonation colored with venomous allure. Her poise captured shadowwork artistry, emboldened through untold histories. Lucian, the man of shadows, towered with thunderstorm restraint, electricity crackling between the two, as pressure built into a crescendo of unreconciled tragedies. Despite the intuitive alarm sounding in her mind, Emma felt herself stepping onto a stage laid bare before a conflicted dichotomy. She would bring color to the monochrome chaos, if nothing else. The gallery was no Danai sanctuary now. It was an amphitheater charged with whispered danger, each spectator a lesser god hungering for resolution. Yet peering into the thickening tempest, Emma glimpsed potential transformations, brushstrokes in destiny, ready for the push that lay in the vision she'd grasped by the mirror. The edge was irrevocably sharp. Lucian's mere presence bridged their profound differences, obscuring Emma's calculated lines from truth just as secrets guarded his own. "I see you've changed," Evelyn remarked, casual, incisive as sparrow dissecting the falcon's acclaim. Well, aren't we bound by more than shadows now? Lucian's reply was deliberately slow, coiled like a cat contemplating its prey, focused, but with a softness edged by hidden truths. The flicker of resolution curled subtly around Emma, spurred to an internal fulmination of courage. In her mind's eye, art swirled, dancing with hidden resolve, her truths woven into the cobalt sky of late tension. Clouded by the galleries overhead, the air folded truth across understanding when the clash trembled between dueling ideals and shadows. Evelyn, Lucian cut through the subtle sonata weaving in night's melody. Things are changing with or without treachery's gilded grace. Emma felt Lucian's signal in gazes shared as quicksilver resolve annealed battle lines in yet another painted act. Soon, words faded, leaving them amidst the dance of unseen blades. The initial's threat only crystallized the portal of confrontation poised between storm-ready power's fingertips and beneath shrouded visages painted with conquest. However sharp-edged the situation was, Emma's mind worked in symphony, paint poised to battle the mightiest shadow with insight stitched from mystery's marrow. In that air, laced with stories unsaid, she felt realization blossom with scent-driven clarity, baking with Lucian's faith, a portrayal captured timelessly in ink's permanence. And as sudden motion threatened to ensnare, she dared, touch Simone's edge, the palette knife clutched with fortitude, and everything else narrowed to a pinprick's daunting details. The echo, the murmur, reached the pinnacle. Lucian leaned, whispered revolution hinging on suspense-edge fire. The mirrored-edge fate, the kaleidoscope, and endless possibilities blazed upon her mental canvas. A fierce warmth radiated, eyes adjusting to trajectories of a future taking shape. As artists of their realm, they readied, they turned. And thus, much like longing notes halted by unforeseen clashes, the silence amplified. For then, closing Emily's emergence echoed through the sentinels around until the whispered words cut through fresh tapestry spent. We're not alone. The rusting train yard echoed with haunting solitude as a singular note from an unseen saxophone pierced the evening chill, lingering like melancholic breath against the fading dusk. Emma wouldn't have thought it hauntingly beautiful here, but the layers of rust and graffiti told stories akin to those trapped beyond every canvas she had ever known. Her chest tightened, anticipation woven with the uncertainty of the moment. Emma Cunningham, a canvas of color amid shadows, lingered beside Lucian. The soft clatter of distant freight anchors whispered a serenade of friction. She observed him with an artist's eye for detail, his silhouette sharp against the dying light. Every line of his form speaking authority wrought through the veils of mystery. Yet beneath it all, humanity pulsated, vibrant amidst the ravages. Lucian's world was no painted rumor now. It was tangible, carved in reality's sharp countenance, script written on wall after wall. But within this maze of tracks and echoes, she felt strangely at peace. Here, discarded artifacts were not unlike her own, overlooked yet infused with potential beyond rough exteriors. Waiting for shadows is longer than meeting them. Lucian's voice drew her back, warm velvet laced with tension, alive within the reality that bore them together. A chill wind carried remnants of diesel and distant rain. Emma sighed, fingers trembling around the cold metal of the old watch she had taken to carrying a relic of time, caught between riveted faces. Its tick, a counterpoint to the hidden rush. The ticking presence felt its pressure as they awaited clandestine voices, night's operatic narrative favoring secrets hidden within. Then they emerged, figures cloaked in an aura as shifting as the clouds above, shadows heralded by harsh whispers and smokering chill. The train yard became a stage for resolution, crafted amidst chaos. Tensions weaved an invisible tapestry, a dance of suspicion between truth and absence in misconstrued intention. Why do stories always start with silence? Emma murmured. More to herself than Lucian yet. The words rang clear enough to pierce conflict's static. She felt Lucian's hand brush fleetingly against her own, warmth surging through layers of doubt and guarded expectations. The rivalry lay stark. Evelyn, a specter carved with elegance, her smile sharp as the steel tracks beneath them, every part of her calculated as though assembled from cobweb tomes and lingering portrayals. Emma's heart felt its own echo, a metronome ticking beneath the unease of uncertainty demanding resolution's sigh. It spoke of flickering hope whispered through Lucian's gaze. Caught in reflection's shadow, Emma? Evelyn's voice a siren's call tinted with malice, sliced through, landing with jousting pretense. She moved with a swan's grace between Lucian and shaming distance. Lucian remained adamantine, silhouette unyielding despite the tempest brewing around him. The echo of confrontation lingered in his Wakia command. Some performances require shadows as the antagonist and light as inspiration, Emma countered, resolve punctuating her words, a hint of steel lacquered upon soft exterior. Every instinct urged her to grasp the narrative within every glint of Lucian's unsettling charisma, butterfly gravitating towards a flame. We'll have to turn pages then. Lucian's voice resonated, sharp as a conductor's baton, directing their clandestine ballet through caution, swarting. Evelyn's stance suggested two swans poised as sharks, circling the vulnerability meant for foes, not friends. And even as the darkness pressed with righteous weight, Emma realized answers sketched themselves into narratives unpredictable and bold. With the Raven choice, Lucian, where do I fit? Emma pressed, quietly demanding definition amid shadows, shifting silently between acts of resolution. Lucian finally met her gaze. A complexity of stars reigned by sunlit gravity, a harbinger of the unknown. Every heart echoed guitarist's art, blending realms timelessly spurred by dynamic piston. The moment hung suspended, plots woven with expectation. Evelyn, a thread woven into tapestry, elucidated through chiaroscuro stark. But here amid unending applause of whispers scattered by distances unseen, Emma felt preferable acceptance in ensemble's daring overture and approaching universal performance through its splintered genesis. Beyond, with Luciana Grimm widening, enactment images took full form. Through it all, a subtlety and relieving pressure passed between participants, a bridge cut by no lack of paint's potential, not if stitched by reckonings more emissive than reverie. Lucian exhaled, an artist's disquiet and embracing measured joy before the gallery of judgment had emerged. Watch and wait, he instructed softly. Command shifted toward Emma with transference colored in adrenaline's shade. Resolved, she faced her opaque reflection from which pivotal change decreed. Shadows watched poised equilibrium found within this monument, art forged through uncertainty. I will, she replied, overflowing. Then Lucian moved forward, dusk veiling his departure, echoes thrumming with narrative stature, echoes shadowed mystery, wrapped around tendon and artery. Long shadows stretched theirs upon the scene, concluding flicker driven from residue, a reminder that faith amid deliberation crowned dignity. In the end, between isolated light and animated characters aligned, Emma ventured foreboding surreality, balancing between known entities and infinite choice. A final thread tethered fate Lucian's reappearance, not gesture's reminder per se. Then, suspended with evolution, paint poised on tomorrow's frail inevitability. Lucian's voice emerged across impending, gray night landscape resonant. Somewhere, he uttered, a line bridging divergent pathways poised for transcendence, where reflections stand eternal. And in that instant, beneath silence and discord, the tale's legacy lay embedded beneath stone's softened whisper. The gleaming edge of the blade captured the moonlight, painting a silvery scar across the darkness, as if the night itself was preparing for a duel. Emma's breath caught, the unexpected beauty of the scene clashing with the threat it posed. She stood at the edge of a derelict rooftop, clutching the fragrant warmth of Lucian's coat, still resonant with his elusive scent of leather and cedarwood. Here, among the city's skeletal remains, the true enormity of their clandestine world seemed to hum through every rivet and shadow. Despite Lucian's absence, his unseen influence felt like an echo embellishing the backdrop. The organized chaos he orchestrated now played through unseen veins of neon and grit. Where most saw grunge and desolation, Emma perceived a blank canvas, a sprawling testament to forgotten stories in need of a voice. Down below, the city danced to the rhythm of oblivion, neon lights flickering like distant stars in an urban cosmos. Each glance between the twin towers of dreams and desolation emitted its own gravity. The world had doubted her once solid presence, yet she remained an artist, destined to paint destiny's turbulent path. Suddenly, Emma was thrust from her reverie by the appearance of figures cloaked in the guise of knights' allies. Their approach was marked by the sterile click of steel-tipped boots on stone, ever nuanced with the sort of dread lurking beyond every artist's curtain call finale. She inhaled deeply, instinctively tightening the frayed scarf looped loosely around her neck, its coarse fibers a tactile reminder of life's resilience under looming pressure. Facing this confluence of reality and deception delivered the acute awareness that dreams uncompromised required fortitude even when passion quivered. Lucian's last whispered directive etched itself into her conscious thought: trust your colors. It was an anomaly, such advice carved from one marched to the beat of calculated superiority, a man whose every facade housed deliberate design. Yet, as Emma anchored herself amid the gale of impending confrontation, she recalled those moments when speculation waned, and art's truth burst through to transform obscurity into light. Pressured stride closed distance, and Emma met her adversaries with a resolute focus that stripped away pretense. She had been dismissed, underestimated, and forgotten, an inconsequential line sketch in the mafioso's elaborate backdrop. But it was in the neglected moments she flourished, painting nuances others overlooked. At the forefront stood Evelyn, her presence regal, formidable, a symphony of order amid chaos, her every movement resounding with purposeful punctuation. Your stride suggests you've found inspiration, Evelyn spoke. Every word a punctured lullaby, crafted elegance tainted by barbed clarity. Emma's resolve crystallized, her gaze unwavering as she spoke. Inspiration is nothing without context. That's why I stand here. Each word precise as if etched with a master's brush onto the fabric of expectation. The gathering shadows cataloged the jousting ideologies with detached ambivalence, and the measured silence unfairly pressed against each participant. But rising challenges demanded escalation. Beneath their intimidation's weight emerged Emma's gift, the truth seen only by those colored beyond perception. You view me as part of Lucian's gallery, but my palette holds hues unseen, she declared, an unanticipated blaze beneath overshadowed reality. Her artan expression of color within monochrome fortresses had become her firewall, a shield against messenger ravens heralding chaos. For the briefest of moments, a flicker of recognition passed through Evelyn's expression, a threat verified. It surged, unacknowledged yet poignant through Emma's layered masterpiece, where each brushstroke harbored rebellion, stealing her resolve. Under the backdrop of nighttime's hum, Emma sensed the moment, the dissolving of shadow's dominion, woven with infinite apertures of possibility. Lucian had seen potential in the unseen. That's why he'd chosen her. Step by step, Emma maneuvered through decades and chapters flashed in fragmented color amidst the urban pantheon. Each step she took inspired echoes, the complexity unraveling Lucid's fading world. As threads tightened, Evelyn's shadow coiled a barrier between their destined paths. Every second threatened indecision and crisis collided, artistry poised to breach the narrative blockade. Destiny's labyrinth always leaves threads unraveled, Emma interjected, closing her hand into a confident fist or brush, sharp with intent. Evelyn's composure fractured, caught in the metamorphosis between certainty and intrigue. Deft fingers unclasped treasures hidden previously, away a delicate dagger imbued with twilight's mirage, poised for art's creation. Fragile equilibrium, marked by choice, reflected in steel's edge. In the descending quiet, Emma extended her hand toward the only relic capable of bending reality, unifying frames a harbinger heralded by inner fires. Climatic crescendo reached its peak. The scream of distant locomotives wrapped them within the night's embrace. Through liquid dark, Emma and Evelyn grappled for mastery over destiny itself. Yet as passions collided, clarity erupted in meteors blaze an array of radiance, captured within shattered glass, suspended fluid momentarily eternal. Resolution woke chained in vulnerability's quiet audacity, the realization of two souls forged under the tremors of city hearts. In the ashes, humanity reigned, Lucian's gates shifted, silhouettes mingling emotions amidst art's quiet truth. Just as destiny's quilt prepared to weave them anew, whispers of redemption swept through the surrounding void. A tentative glance across the canyon all but sealed with cyclical understanding, a surrender through Emma's quiet acceptance of tapestry already spun from fibers of affection's evolving paintbrush. A shadow detached from the greater darkness, a presage, an omen cloaked in invisibility, almost corporeal, teetering on the brink of the unknown. Lucian's voice held a whisper, pregnant with gravity. Do you dare to paint the truth inside our shadows? Smoke swirled and shifted like ghostly tendrils, reaching up to embrace the battered buildings as if they were long-lost companions ready for a spectral waltz. Emma stood on the precipice of decision, observing the ethereal dance as though seeking divine insight from the shadows. Her art-stained hands, tinged with certainty, gripped the dagger Lucian had secretly entrusted to her, its hilt cool against her sweat-slicked palm, an extension of her emerging resolve. Down below, the city's relentless heartbeat pulsed with a strange melody, as if serenading the mysteries they had stirred to life. Emma Cunningham, once just a quiet girl behind a coffee counter, now stood amidst a crumbling realm woven with deceit and danger. Lucian had initiated her into this world of shifting loyalties, his presence, a subtle undercurrent of mastery guiding the tumult within. As the sonorous clang of a nearby bell tower punctuated the night, Emma felt the weight of implications pressing on her like the storm-laden clouds above. The pressure of not only surviving, but defying a narrative stretched out like a tensioned canvas. You realize what's at stake here, Lucian had whispered that evening, his voice as deeply woven with warning as the night itself. He had oftentimes been her silent maestro in this orchestra of chaos. Emma inhaled deeply, the air tinged with the bittersweet promise of rain. It was a reminder of how perilous and yet fragile their circumstances had grown, like thin ice above water of an indeterminable depth. Before her resolve could falter, the night's tension crept closer in the form of approaching silhouettes moving with purpose. Every step they took echoed the quiet detonation of unspoken conflict. In the dim light, Evelyn's angular presence emerged, the embodiment of elegant menace. Her style was immaculate, her smile a polished weapon honed on society's brittle edges. Behind her trailed lesser shadows, minions maneuvering to adjust the balance of power. Emma had been nudged to this brink, one foot in the safety of ignorance, the other poised to plunge into the revelation of truths polished to cruel clarity. Evelyn's voice rang out, slicing through the static. So, this is where ambition leads you, she mused, eyes flickering with the hunger of an elegant predator. It was time. Emma met that gaze with one bolstered by an artist's insight. The laced veneer of societal games had taught her a few tricks in return. Ambition? No, it's about seeing the colors beneath the facade, Emma replied, her voice steady, carrying the metal of conviction. For a fleeting heartbeat, silence reigned in the narrow corridor of their standoff, an omnipresent, quiet-breathing anticipation into the gathering gloom. As if an unspoken cue passed between them, Lucian emerged from the encroaching shadow, a silent specter embodying power and poise. His presence was a masterstroke against the canvas of the unfolding conflict. Emma felt something shift within. Elise, the very essence of power tempered by vulnerability, grasped the strength within, a realization of potential that churned within her like turbulent seas. Evelyn tilted her head, amusement shimmering in her eyes, though just so obscured by a fractured trust. Our choices map the stories we're allowed to tell. Are you prepared for that burden? Emma nodded, a not noticeable quiver marking her resolved conviction. Every story needs a voice, and I've finally found mine. The night flexed, unwritten lines unwinding like threads in the hands of a destiny weaver. As tensions mounted, intimacy buzzing with intensity, Emma took the step toward unfathomable possibilities. Her brush poised to carve colors anew on destiny's canvas. Lucian moved with deliberate grace, the weight of silence a shield, an acknowledgement beside her. With each word left unspoken, a promise flickered alive, a potent assurance that would not falter against the coming night. Suddenly, from beyond their domain, urgency breached with claustrophobic intensity as a shadowed newcomer advanced, in addition to the course of the night, promising new revelations. Emma sensed the stir of unraveling secrets, trapped within frames half-painted. Around them, the architecture of possibilities transformed. The shadows draft narratives where each choice bled into another's. Her world, once silent and dismissed, now thrummed with the cultivation of rebellion, insightful defiance lurking on the edges of reformation. The rain chose that moment to descend, sheets of water linking sky to earth, a baptism meant for wars yet to be fought and stories indelibly crafted. Lucian's eyes held hers, a look that balanced gently on the fulcrum of opportunity and consequence, as if he alone savored the symphony's inevitable crescendo. Measured steps met encroaching darkness, and Emma steeled her resolve, the gravity of the city bound within lines still untamed, yet glowing. As fate intertwined with the unraveling threads about them, the muted expectancy took shape in the form of one whispered promise from the night's maestro, words dipped in fate's luster. In the shadows the truth awaits. The unmistakable crack of thunder quelled the murmur of the masses, smoke curling like ominous ribbons in the drenched night air. Emma stood amidst the rediscovered wreckage of a world disrupted, her heart a relentless percussion that harmonized with the tempest overhead. Despite the formidable rumble echoing the heavens' wrath, her thoughts threaded through the chaos, exquisitely clear. The old cathedral loomed, grand and forgotten, much like Emma herself had once felt. Quiet shadow relegated to the peripheries of her own life. Now her silhouette leapt against the cracked mosaic of time-worn glass, her presence undeniable. Above, the filigree arches whispered ancient secrets, seeming oversized against the diminutive human dramas playing out beneath them. Emma Cunningham, the barista whose world once teetered on the edge of obscurity, confronted the unknown with eyes alight and a heart steeled by revelations. The dagger she held, a relic of lore untouched by the passage of time, shimmered dully against her side as she moved through the expanse of cold stone and faded history. In the shadows, shapes conspired, their forms cast long upon the stained glass windows, mirroring past deeds in the storm's fractured light. A sudden gust of wind carried snippets of solemn organ notes, suggesting the echo of an ethereal chorus ghosting back into existence. "Did you think the storm cared for our battles?" Lucian's voice emerged from the gloom, a cryptic melody twisted with the anguish of unspoken truths. He stepped into her line of sight, a phantom come to life within the remnants of his clan's ambition. So much had been layered between them, layers of deception, intent, and understanding woven into an intricate composition only they could decipher. Emma was resolute, the same immaterial guardian who saw truths buried beneath complexities that painted Lucian as misunderstood rather than malevolent. The pressure folded around them both like wolves in waiting, a trial by existence, demanding justification and resolute clarity. Emma felt this as sharply as the cold steel poised at her fingertips. From across the nave, Evelyn's voice drew nearer, interspersed with the incessant tap-tap of heels on cracked stone, a constant harbinger heralding challenge. A coterie shifted around her, shadows made flesh as presence flexed with purpose, the sudden quiet magnifying the unseen divides. Emma held her ground, aware of the forces aligning against her, yet unwilling to surrender to overwhelming doubt. Her composure was a brush dipped in courage, painting confidence onto the raw canvas of reality through steadfast determination. "Endings birth beginnings," Evelyn murmured, each syllable intricately wielded like an artisan's chisel shaping a flawed masterpiece. Her gaze pierced the ambient twilight, finding Emma with a venomous grace, expecting submission to woven narratives of power. Emma lifted her chin, facing the potency of Evelyn's charms and the pull of Lucian's calculated intrigue with equal resilience. "Then we paint the dawn," Emma spoke, halting all movement with the precision of her resolve. Her free hand rose, gesturing to the tapestry of shadows threatening to undo them. Her heart surged an artist's heartbeat unmatched by adversity, fingers learned in restraint, and eyes imbued with the clarity of untapped potential. Before Evelyn's encroaching shadow, Emma presented her discovery with humble strength. Lucian's eyes searched hers, a subtle symphony of understanding playing in the space between breath and silence. This was the truth exposed, a mosaic formed from the splinters of fractured loyalty and the inked outlines of an artist sure of herself even when the night closed in. Power strained the tension, and the connections between past and present grappled for a foothold. Intricate as memories superimposed upon one another in violation of every known spectrum. The climax arrived, incandescent as truth bearing witness to itself. The cathedral's silent guardians murmured approval as Emma, guided by vision and fire, pivoted into a new reality colored by choice and refracted through charts long left unread. Eyes locked between them, Lucian and Emma delineated events from emotion, parsing the world into sharp lines drawn across the nexus of destiny. The air thickened with realizations matured through shared trials, an unraveling merger of passion and intention and grievance. When taught by shadows, Emma said, parsing the stillness with conviction, the light must be our compass. The declaration resonated, vibrating in harmony through the nave's sacrosanct aura as water pooled at their feet. Evelyn faltered, her composure tested against truths long submerged, now made glaringly apparent. For that moment, intertwined stories crescendoed into one architectural tableau of humanity. A kinetic impression captured upon face viaduct. Shadows merged with light, redefining truth's compass with vital, resolute strokes. And as the echoes dissipated into the descending quiet, Emma knew her efforts had garnered more than the survival. They had transformed a fading palimpsest into radiant testimony. Her legacy, one of gradual enactment against implacable dominion, breathed life into the newly balanced continuum. The storm outside abated, tranquility cloaked in brooding acclamation. Yet the anticipation withheld from the final sigh lingered prior, an unexplored road gently spun beyond, resplendent in determination's paint. As Emma and Lucian faced the blank canvas of their futures, the raindrops' lingering refrain murmured an uncharted refrain, an eternal truth magnified by the ominous caress of shadows as yet uneclipsed. And then a sudden, inescapable whisper drew them from reverie. Someone's watching passed like prophecy into the closing balm.